So, welcome everyone. Today we are with Eric from Alliance, a performance marketing agency that works with e-commerce brands. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to this world of performance marketing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on. It's great to connect. But yeah, basically Alliance, we're at Alliance. What we do is we work with e-commerce brands. We help them with all their performance marketing and their creative. More recently, we're kind of stepping in as it's almost like an outsourced like CMO position is what we're finding ourselves doing a lot with clients. So we're not working with tons and tons of brands. We're very selective with who we work with, but we grow with them, and that's basically how we operate. But yeah, in terms of how I got into this space, about 4 or 5 years ago, honestly, I was just out in college. I was like, this is not for me. This is not my thing. And I was just looking for other things to do. Within business, there were a lot of different people saying, hey, you should do drop shipping or you should do affiliate or, SMMA or whatever it might be. And I was just looking at like, hey, what's the best way for me to start getting into business, and starting a service-based business made the most sense to me. Obviously you don't have to risk any of your own money up front, and so I started working with some clients. Just started doing some media buying in the real estate space, slowly transferred over to the direct to consumer space, and then for the past 4 or 5 years been doing that. And yeah, collectively as a team, if we combine, all of the revenue that we've generated for clients, it's like well past 100 million over the past like 4 or 5 years as well. So
All right, that's impressive. So, did you start it from the beginning as an e-commerce agency purely, or did you work with other type of businesses as well?
yeah, so we actually started working with real estate like agents initially. And so I was trying to do that for, I would say, roughly 6 months to maybe a year. I don't remember the exact time frame, but was just trying to get my foot in the door with, trying to get some clients, trying to help them out, stuff like that. And I wasn't really getting a lot of traction there. And then I saw other people in the e-commerce, or like they were working with e-commerce brands specifically. And I was like, let me try it out. And I just found it a lot more interesting, and just something that I enjoyed doing a lot more as well. So, yeah.
All right. And how much time approximately took you to figure out your product market fit and your ideal customer profile?
That's a great question. I think that it took me maybe a year or so to find product market fit. But then ever since then, like it's still kind of I think it's continuously evolving as well in terms of like how we're helping our clients and things like that as well. So initially we just started out with, hey, we'll just do your media buying. And 4 or 5 years ago, that was the thing to do. That was the thing to like, that was the hot offer, if you want to call it that, back in the day. Because that's really what a lot of these brands needed help with, was like, a lot of technical things within the ad account, and doing a bunch of crazy, setups and whatnot. And that's what worked. That's what, drove a lot of results. Obviously, creative was still huge back in the day, but you could definitely see a lot of lift in your performance by just doing a lot of technical things within the ad account. And then as time went on, and then, iOS 14 came around, things like that as well, we realized that like, hey, we really, really need to start dialing in the creative side of things as well, and like just focusing on that and prioritizing that over just the media buying specifically. So obviously with that, came kind of like the development of our own offers, and what we provided to clients as a service as well. So right now it's very, very focused on creative, and kind of like a holistic growth approach is what we're looking at right now. And just telling clients like, hey, we're seeing, these areas in your business that need to be, or businesses that need to be improved. And then we, kind of guide them through that as well. And obviously there's still a lot of media buying that happens too. But when you look at what really has the result, like it's 80%, 90% creatives, 10, 20% of the actual media buying as well. So that, I don't know if that kind of answered your question, but it's a development I think it's always developing, especially if you're in this space, in the, e-commerce performance marketing. Like things are constantly changing, so it's not really like you find one product market fit and then you're good for the next few years. You have to be adapting. So
All right. So right now, do you focus mostly on acquisition side of things, still like creative media buying, or do you do retention strategies as well?
It's primarily acquisition. Primarily acquisition. Yeah, we that's the main thing that we focus on. Most of our other clients, they either have like in-house teams that'll do a lot of the retention stuff, or they, have other agencies that will refer to them that are just specialized in that specifically. But that's the winning structure that we've found so far.
All right. Do you work with US clients only or European brands as well?
US and Europe as well. Well, I mean, it's kind of international, honestly. Most of our clients are in the US, but we have one that's based out in Europe, and then another one that's actually based out in Hong Kong as well. But they all sell internationally as well. So as long as they can speak English and they have a good product that we believe in and a good brand that we believe in, we'll entertain a conversation with them.
All right. Got that. At the beginning, you mentioned that you're kind of like your agency is kind of like a fractional, sorry, outsourced CMO. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, yeah. So it's basically essentially it's looking at or I would say like really guiding the clients um, with their growth strategy overall. And so some of the things we won't necessarily like do for clients, but we do consult them on a lot of those extra things. So for example, a lot of our clients right now, not all of them, but most of them they're really, really good with product, right? They're really good at creating, an amazing product um, that has that product market fit that actually, has like it's unique, it's different, it has a lot of different USPs and stuff like that, or unique selling propositions. But on the marketing and on the growth side of things, they're not as good as what we have done, and kind of our experience there. So we'll work with clients to set up, let's say, like their marketing calendar can be one thing. Like, what major promotions do we want to, focus on throughout the year? What kind of strategies do we want to implement in order to actually help those like help or make sure that those promos are effective? For example, like in the previous Black Friday, Cyber Monday period, we have a strategy that we implemented that for basically all of the clients that we implemented it for, they were all able to achieve like 6-figure days, like in a 24-hour period or 48-hour period. So just working with them to implement all of those strategies, and those strategies will also involve a lot of different other channels as well. So yes, we're paid to, work on their creative, work on their, performance marketing, but in order for us to like make those strategies effective, we also need to be very, very much in touch with their email team or SMS team and their organic social team. And we're basically guiding them and saying like, hey, this is the overall idea. This is how the, system is going to work out. This is what we need you guys to do as well. Or if it's we're seeing, hey, one of our clients, they're consistently seeing like very, very solid growth month over month, and one of the key things that they're doing is they're releasing new products. So we'll work with our other clients to implement that kind of strategy, like, hey, how can we start launching new products on a more frequent basis? So yeah, it's a lot of different things, but it's essentially working with them like a consultant, if you want to put it that way, like a growth consultant, and saying, hey, like, we're taking care of your performance marketing, but what else can you be doing to then overall like scale the overall revenue? Because right now it's very tough to be solely reliant on Facebook ads and Google ads and maybe even TikTok ads. And like if you do that, your business is going to be very, very volatile. I know of some brands that it's very, very rare where they'll basically just rely on those channels and they'll be fine. They'll be good. And it's like, that's great, but I would rather not rely on that kind of like that kind of luck. And so what we've seen at least is that for the brands that are consistently scaling, they don't have a lot of volatility and they're very, very profitable. They have this omni-channel kind of approach as well. And that's what we try to help our clients with as well. So does that can answer your question though?
Yeah, absolutely. And what platforms are you focusing right now on?
So the main one is Meta. That's where I would say 70% of our ad spend is for most of our clients. Google is the next one. I would say 25% of the spend is on Google and then a little bit on TikTok as well. We have I think it's only like 2 accounts right now that we're, or no, 3 accounts that we're doing for, or like we're managing their TikTok ads as well. But we've just noticed that at least like over the past 1 to 2 years as we've been testing TikTok, like it's good to drive some of that top of funnel, but um the amount of creative that it requires to like make it work is just not it's not really worth our time. Because if we test a few ads every week on Meta and we find some winners, those can last for a very, very long time, and they could scale very, very far. Whereas on TikTok, they'll work for a little bit, at least in our experience. That's what we found. Maybe we just haven't tested enough, but at least from our experience, it'll work for a little bit, 1 to 2 weeks, and then it fatigues. You know what I mean? And so it's like a constant, the amount of time that you spend in TikTok to get a certain result, you can spend like a fifth of that time on Meta and achieve the same, if not a better and more long lasting type of result as well. So that's why we haven't focused too much on TikTok. But yeah, to go back to your question, Meta primarily, Google, a little bit of TikTok, but that might change with TikTok shops. We're starting to test a lot of TikTok shops, so we'll see if there's a lot of scale in that, if there's a lot of efficiency in that, then it could flip around. But that's our current like setup at the moment.
All right. So we Europeans are absolutely not familiar with TikTok Shop right now yet.
Really? Oh yeah, because it's not available, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you just a little bit introduce me what that is? Like I see people talking about that all the time. So what is the advantage here?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So essentially um are you familiar with Meta shops?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same concept then. So basically, instead of sending people directly to your website where they can purchase, TikTok Shop is like the shop directly on the TikTok app where people can be purchasing right now. So
Yeah.
TikTok is trying to just remove that friction of like, hey, instead of sending people away from the platform and onto different websites, they want to keep everybody on the platform basically and make it a much more seamless experience. And their algorithm is just favoring TikTok shops right now like crazy. I know of one of my other friends. He runs his own brand that does like 2 3 million a month in revenue, and like recently their revenue, like 60% of their revenue comes from TikTok shops by itself, and they were able to cut their customer acquisition costs down to, I think it was like more than half of what they had before as well. So the just basically the algorithm is favoring it like crazy. And if you can get it to work, I think it's a huge opportunity. We haven't tested it yet with clients. We're just getting it set up, but that's basically what TikTok shops are. So
All right. So kind of like an Instagram shop. Correct.
exactly. Exactly.
Right. So absolutely general question, but I ask it to almost all of the guests, and
Mhm.
especially in marketing space.
Yeah.
So paid ads was a massive opportunity from, let's say, 2015 to 2020, let's say.
Yeah.
So do you feel right now that e-commerce brands are facing customer acquisition crisis?
That's a great question. I think that if you're approaching business the wrong way, then yeah. And what I mean by that is if you have a good product, and if you have good initial just like business foundations, um, I think you'll be fine. Like you won't have an issue with customer acquisition. That's where I think a lot of people like where they started facing issues is they really relied on, paid advertising in the past with like a decent product, but it wasn't really that good. They weren't really focused on building a really big community around their brand. They weren't thinking long term. They were thinking in a very transactional kind of way, and that comes across in their organic socials, in their ads, their overall just business strategy overall. And if you have that approach, then yeah, I think it's going to be very, very tough moving forward. And it's going to just get more and more hard for you as a brand owner. But if you're thinking, it just comes down to like business basics, honestly. Like if you're thinking long term, if you have a good product, if you're genuinely focused on like making your customers lives better through your product or products that you're going to be releasing as well. You're keeping them first. You're giving them a really good experience. You're building a great community around the brand. Um, if you, and obviously like your metrics have to make sense too. Like you have to have a decent AOV. You have to be focusing on having a good LTV as well. And if you have those things in check, or if you're doing those things that sound so basic, like that'll make your life so much easier, and it'll like keep your acquisition costs at a decent level as well. I think that's the best way to move forward. And that's what we're seeing with all of our brands as well. Like all the clients that we're working with, the ones that have that kind of mentality, they're crushing it, like month over month, just scaling, very, very consistent revenue. You can tell that, customers love the products as well. Whereas some of the other clients that we worked with in the past, or there's like, unfortunately, one brand that comes to mind that probably have to fire soon, but they think that way in a very transactional sense. Like they just want the money now. They just want to rely on the paid ads. They're not really focused on building a good community. You can see that customers are kind of complaining about their product. And then they're like, no, it doesn't matter, just hide the comments or whatever like that. And it's not, addressing the root problem, which is making better products, thinking longer term, building that community. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say. Like if you have the right approach, if you have the right approach to business, and you're thinking long term and you have the right like fundamentals that you're building off of, I think you'll be fine. And I would say that's the same thing for any industry. It doesn't matter if it's e-commerce or if you're operating an agency, or if you're doing even something physical. Like it all comes down to what is your approach, what are the principles that you're going to be building your business off of. And I think if they're solid, customer centric principles, everything else will flow from there. So that's what I would say.
All right, got that. So having strong foundations, not being short-sighted, transactional, and using some just quick arbitrage opportunity, building community,
Yeah.
also
Mhm.
focusing on retention, and
Yeah.
of course, omni-channel approach as well.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
All right, got that. So tell us, how does your ad scaling process looks like right now for Meta, particularly?
Mhm. Yeah.
We're
Great
getting
question.
into
It's
nitty-gritty stuff.
Yeah, it's very simple, honestly. Like it's literally with our testing process. Um, we're kind of in a phase of like seeing what works better from a testing standpoint. Is, should we just be testing an ABO? Should we be doing like DCO type of testing within a single campaign? So that part is still, I think, like there's many ways to do it, but when it comes to scaling, we've found that honestly, as simple as it is, just scale what works. Like we're not going to take something from an ABO and put it into a CBO or Advantage Plus and then like do this complex scaling structure. Like if we just see something, if it's in an ABO testing campaign and it's working, scale that. If it's getting a lot of spend in a CBO type of campaign and it's working, and we clearly see that, hey, when this ad, for example, is getting a lot of spend, the overall like revenue and MER looks good, or the overall like new customer acquisition cost looks good, just keep scaling it up, right? That's really our methodology there. It doesn't have to be complicated. And then in terms of like how we would actually increase budgets, it just depends on kind of like the risk tolerance of the client as well. Like, hey, should we just be doubling budgets by 20%? Should we just, double the budgets right away? I think a lot of people are kind of scared to like, you know, um, like scale the spend very, very aggressively too. Some people will say like, wait every 2, 3 days and only increase by like 10 to 20%. And it's like a very steady approach. And I think that, I don't know, what we've found is Facebook can, if you have good ads and if you have like a good business, going back to, just solid business foundations, you can double the spend and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? So that's basically our process. It's not sexy. It's nothing, insane. It's just as simple as like, if it's working, keep scaling it, just keep going. So
All right, but many marketers are focusing on some type of stuff like, oh, there's a 7-day period where like algorithm has to understand like which ad is performing better, etc., etc. So do you focus on that, or that doesn't matter
So
at all?
yeah, it depends. I think it depends on how, like what we're seeing with the performance. Obviously, we won't be doubling spend every day. Like that I wouldn't do. That might be a little bit too aggressive for sure. We'll usually bump spend, and then from there we'll give it like a day or two, maybe 3 days, and we'll see, hey, how's this affecting things? And then we'll keep going from there as well. Um, but we're not really looking at like, hey, it has to be like 7 days, and then it has to get out of like learning limited. Like I've seen ad accounts where like there's still stuff in learning limited, but it's crushing. And so we're just going to keep scaling it. You know what I mean? And then later it'll get out of learning limited. But all of that like optimization type of stuff, I think people can get like really caught up in that, and like really like in the weeds with all these little things that are not really like the main needle movers. And that's a big reason why we focus on creative. I strongly believe that if you have really, really solid creatives that can speak to a very broad audience, as well, and they call out the right audiences, when you're running that ad as well, it'll withstand, your ad account can withstand a lot more spend than you think it can as well. But if your creatives are crap, then you scale your spend and you see a drop in performance. It's not because of like all the little optimizations and learning limited and you need to give it 7 days. It's just because your creative sucks most of the time. So
And what's your creative testing process?
that's what I was saying as well. We're kind of testing two different approaches right now. One is just testing within an ABO, where we are kind of forcing spend to. We usually test in batches, so we'll test. If we have like a certain ad concept, we'll have 2 or 3 different versions of that concept. Some can be images, some can be videos as well, and then we'll just put that into an ABO ad set. That's typically what we've done for a very long time. We'll kind of force spend to those ads. We'll obviously make sure that they have some spend behind them to see if they're actually good or not. And then if they're performing, we'll scale it up there, or we'll just move those ads into a CBO as well. But then the other thing that we're testing as well is, this is something that I got from a buddy of mine. But they only have like one campaign, just like a CBO, just one CBO campaign, and then they're doing dynamic creative tests within that CBO, and they basically test and see like, hey, which ads are getting the most ad spend, and based on how much ad spend they're getting, and then if they see the revenue and MER improving as well, they'll know that those ads are actually high performance. So they're not really looking at like the in-platform ROAS specifically as well. So we're testing both right now, we're seeing, but I think it just goes to show that there's like a lot of different ways to test. There's no like one right way to do it. It depends also on your creative, um like how much creative you have as well. If you're only getting 1 or 2 creatives out every single week, then it's probably best to just test it directly within like your main CBO campaign where you're doing your scaling as well, right? I think that's probably the best way to do it. But for example, one of our other clients, we're making ads for them, but then their team is also making tons of ads. Like we have a backlog of creatives that we can't even test yet because we just don't have the budget to do it. So, and in that case, if we have like 10, 20, 30 ads that they want us to test in a single week, then maybe we'll do some more like ABO type of like testing setups, basically, just to like get more and more creatives tested. So it depends on how many creatives you have, what your spend is, as well. And there's again, there's different ways to do it as well. So
All right, got that. What's your highest ad spend per month for across all of your clients? Just curious.
highest ad spend. Um, I think that it was probably like in like November during like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I think one of our clients, we scaled them up like a little bit past like 120,000 in a single month, I want to say. So it's still relatively not even that high compared to a lot of other brands as well. But I think that was like the highest that we've done in recent years for a client as well. So
All right. Could you please like break down the process of how you scale to that level? This, for example,
yeah.
this particular client to 120. Okay.
Totally. So it's a combination. It kind of goes back to what I was saying as well. Again, there was a lot of tests in ABO campaigns as well that were just performing very, very well. And so we were just scaling those up as we saw performance directly in those campaigns. If it was good, scaling that up. We had other CBO scaling campaigns as well that we would just be scaling up on like a, not, I want to say a daily, but on a weekly basis as well. And then we also had a lot of other Black Friday Cyber Monday campaigns as well. And so during that, like we ran like a week long, or no, it was like 10 days actually of their Black Friday, Cyber Monday promo. And as campaigns were performing better and better, like we were able to just like really scale up budgets and scale them up very aggressively as well. But that was kind of our process there. I don't know if that kind of answers your question. It's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. You know what I mean? Like if something's working, just keep increasing spend. That's really our methodology. It doesn't have to be super glamorous and sexy in terms of the account setup. So
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. All right. So you said that you're not focusing on retention side of things, but
mhm.
how do you right now kind of like work together with retention experts, let's say, across your
Mhm.
brands? Like, how do you collaborate with them to get
Yeah.
those results?
Yeah, great question. So I'll first say that I have to give props to a lot of these different agencies or in-house teams that the clients have, just because they're exceptionally good at what they're doing already. So I don't really have to go in and like tell them and say, "Hey, we need to do more of this and less of that," or whatever it might be, or do this campaign. They got it. They got it on lock. They're pretty good at what they do. The times when we will collaborate with them most is usually when we have like a big promo coming up, or if there's some like really big um, product drop or something like that. We'll usually just prep everything ahead of time and map out like the exact strategy that we want to be implementing for let's say like a certain promo or a product launch or something like that. That's mainly when we will be really in touch with the retention side of things as well. Or if we're seeing that for example, like the past few days, I don't know what other people are seeing as well, but at least for us, we've seen like the traffic quality from Meta has been like a lot more poor over the past couple of days for us, and we've just seen like it's a common trend across all accounts. Like performance is a little bit down, which is a normal part of the process. But in those kind of scenarios, we'll touch base with the email and SMS team for like specifically, and we'll say like, hey, what else can you guys do on your end to make sure that the overall revenue, overall MER is still in a healthy position while the algorithm might be having some issues right now with the traffic quality as well. So that's another example. But to be more specific, let's say I can even break down like what we did for Black Friday, Cyber Monday of last year, as well for our clients, because that involved a lot of the email SMS side of things. But essentially, we would like the strategy was we drive a ton of signups, like I would say like roughly 10 to 14 days prior to the actual like main Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. And basically, the way that people could access that Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale was if they were on this VIP list. Like they had to sign up to this VIP list to get exclusive access to this really big sale. It was like the biggest discount that they've ever done. And then right after that VIP sale, like right after it was over, that's when the like regular Black Friday, Cyber Monday discount was available. Like it was available for everyone on the website. The public could access it, right? And so we had to coordinate a lot with the email, with the SMS team to make sure that, hey, we're driving all these signups. Um, we need you guys to also be emailing the rest of your subscribers as well to get them to sign up to this list as well, just to make sure that like, hey, if they're not on the VIP sign up list, or I'll put it this way, like if they're just a regular subscriber on email, they can't get access to this VIP sale. They have to be on the VIP like list specifically as well. So we're telling them, hey, this is the frequency of like emails that we need you to send basically, or like if you're sending text, this is how many we need you to send out as well during this time frame to get people onto this VIP list as well. And then once the VIP sale is live, this is like exactly when we need you to be sending these emails as well, or these texts, whatever it might be. And then like this is, what else you could be doing during the regular, like just general Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale that's available to the public after that as well. So it's like really sitting down with them and just, brainstorming and saying like, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what we're focused on the paid ad side of things. And then this is how it connects with the email and the SMS. So that's like one example. But hopefully that gives you some clarity and kind of answers your question though.
Yeah, absolutely. By VIP, you mean like early bird Black Friday deals, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. That's another way to put it. Yeah.
All right, got that. Besides SMS and email, are there any other retention tools that your clients are doing right now?
There's subscription as well. I think that's kind of the only other one that well no there are more actually. So subscription is one. So for example, one of our clients, they sell diapers, and then people can just subscribe to that and then get their diaper box delivery on a monthly basis. So that's huge from a retention standpoint. The other thing that our other clients are doing, which is really successful too, is having like a VIP group. They call it like a VIP group on Facebook. So it's all of their customers. So one of our clients, they sell like play mats for kids, right? And so once someone becomes a customer, um, they are invited to join the like Facebook group as well, and it's just a bunch of parents in that group as well. And then the founder will be very, very engaged in that group too. They have different admins, and so there they have like a lot of educational content about like, hey, here's how to like um, improve like your baby's like mobility or whatever it might be, like the different like as your baby's getting older, just helping them develop basically properly and better using the play mats that they're actually selling, right? And then different people are sharing like, hey, this is how I used my play mat, or this is how I used it in this way. And so that's another very like slept on thing as well, that I think a lot of brands should be doing, is just having those types of groups, being very, very engaged with them as well. And again, it ties back to just the overall approach. Like if you're very transactional with your brand, you're not going to be spending time in the community, messaging your customers and just like engaging with them. But if you have that long-term approach, if you're very customer centric, that's where you'll see a lot of that success as well, as just building that community. And for that brand specifically, their MER is like consistently at a 7x. And we started working with them when they were doing like 70K a month, and then we scaled them up to a point where they did last November, they did 600 grand a month. And again, the profitability and just the MER that they were able to achieve was massive. And a big part of that is because they were continuously focusing on building that community throughout that time as well. So I'd say that's a huge aspect as well. But like I mentioned, subscriptions, that's really big. And then also this ties back into community as well, but just being very engaged with the like or on the organic social channels. So on TikTok, on Instagram, right? Continuously engaging with the followers, with the customers there. It's a good acquisition tool as well. It's a good way for people to find out about your brand, learn about the brand. But once you have them in your ecosystem, it's another great way to stay top of mind for them. And then people will come back, and then they keep seeing your posts, they keep seeing your, interactions in the groups or whatever it might be. Then they're going to come back and they're going to purchase again different products and stuff like that as well. So that's what I would say is very helpful from a retention standpoint. Or just those other key aspects as well.
Okay, got that. Are any of your clients using conversational marketing, for example, let's say Facebook Messenger or Instagram, with that Instagram DMs automation? Because that's
I
kind
don't
of
think
like
so.
becoming very popular right now.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't think any of them are using it right now, at least to my knowledge at the moment, unless their teams have started testing it at a small level, and I'm just not aware of it. But yeah, as of right now, I don't think they are. So
Yeah, because I'm an absolute geek about conversational commerce and
okay.
WhatsApp particularly, because
Oh,
WhatsApp is
really?
right now big in Europe. I don't know about US. I think it's not that popular as in Europe, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's not. I mean, I use it, but yeah, it's mainly to talk with other people that are in the UK or in Europe or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. In Europe, WhatsApp is absolutely massive. Like everyone is using WhatsApp in Germany,
Yeah.
especially
Yep.
in UK
Hmm.
as well. So yeah, that's like kind of the middleman between like email, long form, and SMS, which is short form. So yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we are focused on.
Love it.
Right.
Love it.
So what are the main trends that you see in e-commerce right now in 2024?
The main trends that I see.
Yeah.
Um, I think TikTok Shop is a big trend. That's something that's starting to take a lot of, we're starting to get a lot of momentum right now. Um, and I would have to say, just because we're in performance marketing, I would say that creative is also another huge trend. It has been a big trend over the past like year or two, I would say, but even more so going into 2024. I think that's going to be like the biggest thing that will be um, driving a lot of the success when it comes to performance marketing specifically, because ad platforms are getting, easier and easier to like manage when it comes to the media buying side of things, right? So I think that's going to be a huge, huge trend. TikTok Shop, like I was saying. Um, Aside from that, I think those are the two that come to mind as of right now, honestly. That's just because we're deep into performance marketing. But yeah, two main trends.
All right. And in terms of conversion, like optimization or
Mhm.
something from that side.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that's always going to be like a big thing. I don't know if it's like a another trend that's super super popular necessarily in 2024, because I think it's always been like really big, because it's kind of the same thing as like, hey, you always need to be improving your conversion rate, always need to be improving your AOV, your LTV. Like if you're focused on those things, um, I wouldn't say they're necessarily like trends. They're just kind of like the fundamentals that you should be focused on. Unless, I don't know, are you seeing a difference? Are you seeing conversion rate like really, really pick up?
Sorry?
Are you seeing conversion rate as like a big trend? Maybe you're seeing something different. I don't know.
Well, there are some interesting things about like conversion optimization right now with AI and
Mhm.
stuff that you can
Okay.
like very in a very fast period of time test different landing pages, etc., etc., with some smart data
Yeah.
intelligence. But I'm not expert in that field, so I
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
embarrass myself. But that's
Sure.
what I see right now.
Yeah, I could see that happening too. Yeah, I guess. Well, AI is another big trend then for sure. Like as it has been over the past year, but I think it's only going to get um, it's going to become like much much stronger over the next year and much much more capable. And so yeah, from a media buying standpoint, maybe even from a creative standpoint, what you're mentioning from a landing page standpoint, I think it's going to get pretty interesting just to see like how that's gonna take over a lot of different positions, honestly, where it could just be done very, very fast. So we'll see.
Well, that's interesting. Do you see some really great applications of AI in e-commerce, particularly right now?
Um, The way that we use it, honestly, is mainly from a research and then a creative ideation standpoint as well. That's personally how we've been using it. I know there's probably a lot of other ways, tons and tons of different ways of implementing and stuff. But yeah, when we're going through, because obviously to make really good ads, you have to really, really understand your market that you're going after, right? You have to really understand the customer. What are their desires? What are their beliefs? What problems do they want solved, et cetera, et cetera. What's their, how do they talk? How do they communicate? And how can you make the ad resonate with them? Again, the way that you make it resonate is just through that research. So as we're going through a ton of different data and as we're doing a lot of that research, what we found really, really helpful is just plugging all of that into, let's say, like ChatGPT, and then it'll summarize a lot of the key like common trends. So for example, if we're going through all of the brands like reviews, instead of going through them like manually, which sometimes we will do because you can find some really good like ad ideas or headlines from a specific like customer review, but most of the time we'll just take all of those reviews, plug it into ChatGPT, and then we'll see like, hey, what are the common trends here? Like 80% of them will talk about this problem, whereas 10% of the reviews will talk about this problem, for example. Or this is like another common theme that we're noticing within all of these reviews. So it just shortens the entire like research process, and that way we don't have to do like a bunch of like manual digging. And then from there, obviously, coming up with with different ad ideas as well. I wouldn't say that we've been able to like get ChatGPT to work in a way where it can like create an entire UGC like script, for example, for
Yeah.
an ad, and it's like perfect. Yeah, we just send it off. Like there's always going to be stuff that we have to edit and adjust, but at least, if we're not feeling like super inspired with ideas, for example, we're like kind of stuck and we have a little bit of like a creative block, if you want to put it that way, then it's good to use ChatGPT to like get some of those ideas off. Like, oh, this could be really cool. This could be really cool. And then it just kind of speeds up our workflow from there as well. Or if we want to maybe create some variations, like we have this headline that's performing super, super well for a client. Hey, ChatGPT, create like 5 more variations, and then it'll give us some more, really, really good ideas that we can be testing. And the other thing is, if you have you read Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So if you start to kind of implement those principles too, and like tell ChatGPT, like, hey, I want you to like, the different ways to like strengthen a headline, for example, like go through this headline and give me different examples of like how you can strengthen this headline through intensification or gradualization, whatever it might be, like these different principles that he talks about in the book. And then, yeah, if you plug those in, it can give you some really, really cool and unique ideas that you wouldn't have thought of by yourself as well. But that's how we're basically using it. And then finally, I will mention is like it's also helpful from a system standpoint. So if we're putting together different systems for our agency or different SOPs, like ChatGPT is really great to create those step by steps. Like I can just record a loom, I'll take the transcript of that, I'll plug it into ChatGPT and say like, hey, create like a step by step process, like written process for this as well. Boom, saves so much time from that standpoint as well. That's how we're using it. We've tried using some of these other like AI creative tools as well, where like the AI will like make the ad for you.
Yeah.
And personally, we haven't found like too much success with it. Like it just requires so much time, like adding all of the inputs and all this kind of stuff. And by that time, we could have already made another ad, you know what I mean, to make it work. But I think it'll improve over time. But yeah, those are kind of the main ways that we use it so far.
Yeah. And it worked for you for ad copy, for copywriting
Yeah.
specifically, successfully?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I mean, we haven't, it's not like it'll write something and then we'll just take exactly what it wrote and
Yeah.
then like plug it in. Like it's never, at least given, or this time period right now, like it's not that good. But it definitely gives you some good, like a good foundation to work off of. And then you can take it and kind of tailor it to a specific client that has a specific tone of voice that they want to have within their ad copy, for example. So it's a good like supplementary tool. It's a good like assistive type of tool rather than something that'll like completely replace your copywriting. At least right now. It could potentially in the next year, 2 years, maybe even replace like a full-time copywriter position, but still haven't gotten there.
Yeah, interesting. Because for us, like ChatGPT, in terms of copywriting specifically, was
Mhm.
absolute mess. Like we tried it,
Really?
for example, for a beauty brand, and it says like
Yeah.
always like unleash your inner beauty with this or that, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
oh horrible.
Completely off. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you have to edit it still. You can't use that as like the final copy that you use in whatever.
Yeah,
So
definitely. All right, so we discussed the top trends for e-commerce. What are the top challenges you see for e-commerce in
top
upcoming years?
challenges.
Yeah.
Um, that is a great question. Great question. I think honestly, this is just from what I'm noticing right now is I think the biggest challenge is trying to get, even for some of our clients, to get all of the founders on the same page in terms of viewing growth in a holistic way, because oftentimes they are too focused on the product, or they have a slightly like old school kind of or not, I wouldn't say old school, but like an older mentality, which is like, hey, we just need to have like great media buying, for example, and just rely on these paid ad platforms, for example. Um, so I wouldn't say that's like a general challenge for overall, the e-commerce industry, for example. I would just say that that's been that's been one thing that I've been noticing for us recently is like how can I help our clients see the same thing that we're seeing as well and help them, ultimately grow a lot faster as well. That's more of like a from a personal standpoint, from more of a industry wide standpoint. Um, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of different things. Just, I mean, supply chain is always going to be, tough to manage. Um, keeping up with algorithms, keeping up with AI, things of that nature. Like, there's always going to be those challenges, but I don't see anything that's going to be as of right now where it's like anything, there's always going to be problems. You know what I mean? There's not like one specific one that I'm like, oh, this is going to be something that can like devastate the entire industry. It's always just like, hey, there's going to be these issues and we're going to have to continuously like figure out how to improve on them. So um, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, not probably the challenge or the tasks, is to just keep up with new trends and
Yeah,
yeah, just stay ahead of the game all the time because
exactly.
e-commerce is evolving like faster than any other industry.
All the time. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And one more question. What are your plans for the upcoming years? Do you want to continue scaling your agency or probably, I don't know, like starting your own e-commerce brand or something like that? Something
Mhm.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah, great question. I've thought about like starting a brand as well for a while, but I think as of right now, there's kind of two main things that we want to focus on in this year. Is number one, just because we don't work with, tons and tons of clients. We're very selective with who we work with, and we grow with them. I want to make it an objective to scale at least our clients to 1 million a month in this year. So most of our clients, they're in a range of they're doing 100,000 a month, maybe 500, 600,000 a month. Some of them at 700,000 a month. But I want to make it like a much more seamless process for all of them to actually scale past 1 million a month. So it's more of like a just like a personal challenge almost of like how can we get to that point? That's one thing. And then the other side of things is we're actually starting to test kind of like an affiliate model with all of our clients as well, where we're fueling their growth by not only scaling their ad spend, but we're starting to put up our own ad spend as well, and then helping them scale too with that. So it's kind of like boosting their growth even further. But that's just something else that we're also testing as well, and it falls in line with just how we're growing as an agency. Is again, I want to zero in and work with the brands that we really enjoy working with, and work with them for a long time rather than going about it the other way where we have 30, 40, 50 clients, 100 clients, and then we can't give them the time and attention that they need to actually to grow and scale. So it's a much more of like a boutique approach, but that's basically our main objective or main objectives for this upcoming year, as well.
You mentioned scaling them with your own ad spend as well. So do you
Mhm.
mean like partnering and having a stake in their business, or what do you mean by that?
No, so it's essentially just like if you look at like affiliate marketing, right? The way that it works is you'll work with a different brand or some kind of vendor, for example, and then you put up your own ad spend, and then they pay you like on a CPA basis, right? So if you bring them one customer, they'll pay you $100, for example, or 200 or whatever it might be, right? So that's what we want to also do with our current clients as well is basically put up our own ad spend. We're not getting like a percentage of their company or anything like that, but it's also like it's a very performance driven way of like growing with them as well, because hey, we put up our own ad spend, and if we bring you a customer, you also pay us like a percentage, or a certain fixed amount for the customer that we bring you as well. So um, that's basically how it works. If we're managing spend, it is very performance based as well. We have percentage of revenue or percentage of ad spend, so we're still very performance based in that aspect. But I'm looking at how can we grow even closer with the client and help them scale even farther, but still be paid based on our performance as well. So does that make sense though?
Yeah, that
That
kind of
structure.
makes sense. Like they are essentially you're setting the CPA that they are
Mhm.
paying you, but you're covering
Yeah,
the ad spend, and basically they're paying you for each client attracted, correct?
exactly, exactly.
Okay, that's interesting because I've never actually seen such model. I know many agencies are taking stakes in brands, or
Yeah.
for example, modeling something like on a commission basis, but
Mhm.
such affiliate model you mentioned.
Yeah,
So
it's basically like an affiliate model. It's just
yeah,
instead of, with affiliates, like I know a lot of affiliate marketers, like they'll use like ClickBank or something like that, which is like a super popular affiliate place. But it's essentially the same process where, if you're going through ClickBank, for example, like you just pick a certain like offer that you want to promote, and then you put up your own ad spend, and then you get paid on like a rev share or like a CPA basis. But instead of working with just a bunch of random with a bunch of like random brands, right? And like offers that are sometimes kind of hard to vet as well. And like see if they're legit or not. Like, why don't I take that same model and apply it to the brands that we've already been working with? We already know what works for them as well. So why don't we just double down on that as well? Um, and it's a much more like leveraged way, I think, of like um, scaling the agency as well, because instead of having to scale with like more and more and more clients, it's simply like we're just making more per client. And it doesn't necessarily require much more work to actually scale that client as well, right? Because it's just media buying from that standpoint. We're running the same creatives that are working for them in their ad accounts. We know what's already working as well, and then we're just doubling down on that with our ad spend as well. So the only extra like workload there is just the media buying standpoint, right? But then we can scale with that client a lot further. So that's basically where the idea came from, and we're starting to test it out. So far it's promising, but we'll see how it goes the rest of this year.
right, interesting. You also mentioned that one of your goals is like to scale your clients to 1 million a month. So do you
Mhm.
mean on average, like your minimum, the client that you're onboarding should be at least at 1 mil a month, or like on average scale your brands? So kind of,
No, so it's basically taking the clients that we currently have, and or if it's new clients that we're bringing on board, and then scaling them up from where they're at right now, which is like seven to multiple seven figures a year in revenue, and basically scale them up to 8 figures or 1 million a month, essentially, right? So it's just taking our current accounts and just scaling them up. I think that we if there are other accounts, other clients that want to work with us and they're already doing 1 million a month, great, amazing. But typically, what I've seen is that once brands get to that point where they're already doing 1 million a month, they usually bring the teams in-house from that point as well. They're usually not working with other agencies. There are cases where it happens, but that's for the most part what I've seen as well. So it's taking our current clients that are doing, like I said, 200 to like 700,000 a month already, anywhere in that range, and then scaling up to 1 million a month from there. So
all right, got that. And what's your ideal client profile right now? If someone wants to work with you, like at what stage they should already be at?
yeah, great question. I think they should already be at like bare minimum 100,000 a month in revenue. We've tried working with other brands that are at 30,000 a month in revenue, 50,000 a month in revenue. But I think that when you're in that stage as a brand, you're still figuring out so many different
Right.
things.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you can't really afford like a good agency, right? Because if you're just working with an agency that you're going to pay like 2,000 a month, 3,000 a month, and that's it, just that amount. Like you're going to be working with some very, very low level, like junior talent as well. And I think that scaling up a brand to, 100,000 a month to like 300,000 a month, you could do it on your own as a brand founder. You'll just have to learn a little bit of the media buying. You'll have to build out like a little creative team as well. And I think it's very doable to get to that point. Plus, you'll start to understand like what offers are working best, who's your actual target market, like what is working, where's your product market fit, like how do you make that work. So that's why recently we've just made that pivot, like, hey, we're only going to work with you if you're already at 7 figures. Like if you're sub 7 figures, we'll consult you, maybe we'll help you get to that point, but we won't actually, do any work with you, like done for you
Yeah,
in that sense.
right.
That's the first thing. Second thing, and usually if a brand is already at 7 figures, they have this dialed in, but it's another important thing to mention is just like good AOV, good LTV, conversion rate has to be in a decent position, or there's like very obvious things that we can do to improve the conversion rate, for example. And I think that the other aspect that I'm really, really looking at when I'm talking to different brand owners that want to work with us is like, would I enjoy, is this somebody that I would enjoy working with for the next few years as we help them scale up? And could we actually, mesh well? Would they mesh well with our team? Would our team mesh well with their team as well? And do they have like a good approach to business? Are they short-sighted? Are they just trying to get like a little bit of cash here and there, or are they thinking long term? They want to build an actual brand. They're thinking about the customer, those kind of things as well. And that's what we found with all of our clients that have worked with us for years at this point. They have that kind of mentality. We mesh very well with them. We've built great relationships with them to a point where I would say, like, if I'm in their city, for example, and I, for whatever reason, I just, I need to crash at their place and like sleep on their couch for some crazy reason, they would be open to that. You know what I mean? And so that's what I look at, is like building those relationships. Um, and if I get a feeling that, hey, like, for example, everything from a business standpoint makes sense, they're in a good position, but I wouldn't enjoy working with them, I won't work with them. Like, it's just not worth our time, not worth our energy. But those are the main things that we're looking at. And usually if those are there, we're in a good position to actually help them out. So
Yeah, absolutely agree. Like the first point of they should be at least at 7 figures in revenue,
mhm.
because if the brand
Yeah,
is making less than 100K per month, like the math just ain't mathing here, because they
exactly.
probably don't have
Exactly.
product market fit yet. They're not,
Yep.
they haven't yet scaled their acquisition side of things. And
Yep.
yeah, it's just so tough to establish some really great work together. And also
Yeah,
AOV plays massive role. If that's not right, then there's a
totally.
lot of issues with that. And of course, yeah,
Mhm.
personal side, like there has to be, I think, a great personal connection with the owner, so that you can actually work together in the long term. I
Yeah,
absolutely agree with that. And
totally.
yeah, sort of like a personal question, I'm interested. How have
Mhm.
you scaled your own agency to that level that you're right now at? So, what were the main drivers for your growth? Like,
Yeah. I would say the main thing, and this sounds like so cliche, but it's just like um, focusing on the client and just like delivering results, honestly.
yeah,
Like, I was never, obviously we have our own like outbound kind of systems to get new clients, and that'll bring us, some clients through the door as well. But mainly most of our clients have come from just referrals, because we helped a client grow massively from, like, there's one brand where we helped them scale from like 30,000 a month in revenue to 500,000 a month in revenue in a single year. And because of those types of results, they're like, okay, you guys did incredible work. You guys are on top of everything, super sharp with everything. Here's my talk to my friends as well. Like, they also are super, super impressed with what you guys did as well. And I would say that's the biggest thing. Like, that's the biggest thing, because a lot of agency people, they'll be focused on just acquisition all the time, like get new clients, get new clients, get new
yeah,
clients, and then they never focus on actually delivering a good service and delivering results. And then they get stuck in this like hamster wheel where they're just, they're not making any progress ever. But I would say that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing, is just focus on the client, deliver a good service to them, be ahead of the game with everything, like be ahead of all of your communication cycles, be proactive with everything. Don't think about just providing your service and that's it. Like, go above and beyond, and make it just like an incredible experience for them as well. So I think if you keep that in mind, you'll be able to scale an agency pretty far. So
so referrals was the biggest thing for you.
yeah, that's why like most of our clients are actually like in the baby and kids category as well. It wasn't like an intentional niche that we went after. But just like one client that's in that space, you know, they refer another client and they refer another one, and then like boom, 80% of your client roster is like just in the baby and kids space as well. So that's kind of how it worked out for us. But yeah, referrals.
All right, got that. Do you had a particular referral system set up, or is that like just actual like doing great work and they're just word of mouth and etc.
Yeah, we do have a referral system where we'll basically pay 30% of the like first month's retainer to whoever like referred us the client as well. And that's not just for our clients that are referring, it's like for anybody as well. But that's basically it. And I wasn't really like, I'm still not really like pushing it either. Like I'm not messaging clients every week or every month, like, hey, do you know of any other brands or anything like that? Like I just told them once, and then from there they kind of kept that in mind, and they just you know, send us those referrals as well. So it's kind of a referral system that's there, but I'm not really like pushing it like crazy. I just let our results do the talking, and um, you know, clients will refer us from there when they think the time is right as well.
Yeah,
So
but that's their initiative in most cases.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%. Yeah.
All right, got that. So yeah, and if brands want to work with you and or get consulting, for example, where can they find you?
Best place is honestly just our website. If you go to workwithalliance.com, if you just type that in, you'll see some of our work, some of our case studies, some testimonials from other clients as well. And then if you just scroll down to the Calendly link, if you book a call, you'll be talking directly with me. So that's the best way to get in touch.
Okay, got that. And one last question, which is borrowed from Tim Ferriss' show. If you had a chance to put a billboard in New York street, the most crowded city, the most crowded
Mm,
street,
yeah.
what would that billboard say?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, if I had one shot. I just put my website up there. Just go chat with them. I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't, I
that's
wouldn't
the
do that.
smartest option.
Um, you know, I would say this has nothing to do with like performance marketing or anything like that, but I would put a Bible verse actually up there. I don't know if you know of John 3:16.
Yeah.
Um, but I would put that verse there. I think that would be much more impactful than, you know, adding my website or something there.
Very interesting. Yeah, definitely. All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for joining us today. And I wish you an absolutely amazing 2024 and reach all of your goals with clients, with all of your brands, and with your agency as well.
Likewise. Likewise. I appreciate the convo. It was great to connect, Ben.
Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, see ya.
Awesome. Take care, bro.